please.
Thank you. I really do appreciate this opportunity to pray for our community and our families. And I want to remind you that tonight at 6 o'clock at the Nazarene Church, there's a community prayer service, and you're all invited, friends and family of this community, to just come and go to the Lord on behalf of what's happening here. So, but let's do that right now. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, you are great, glorious, gracious, and good. And Paul says in Philippians chapter 1 that I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. Father, this is a great community and a great county and a beautiful state and a wonderful country. And you have begun a good work in us, and we want to pray that you will bring it to completion. Father, we confess our worry and our anxiousness, the things that we struggle with, things that we want to control. And so, Father, we confess those things to you. We're thankful for the rebuilding process that has already begun, to see bridges being put back up, to see cleanup begin. And so, Father, those are some things that we are thankful for. And tonight, I ask for a couple of things, Father, specifically safety for our firefighters and those that are working to put the flames out, safety for everyone involved, from ground to air, and those in the office and those doing the hard work. Safety and strength for those that are beginning the rebuilding process, cleaning up, building the bridges, hauling timber. Our OTEC workers trying to get power back up the canyon, Father, they need safety and strength as well. Father, I continue to ask to have patience with one another. Patience because of emotion, and patience because we are exhausted, tired, and frustrated. And Father, lastly, I would just pray for a rain, for a slow rain. Father, something to help seeds begin to grow, some rain to begin to put these flames out. And so, Father, I ask on behalf of this great county and these communities that you would do these things for us. And I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks, Pastor. This afternoon, I've got a call from Senator Wyden's office, Kathy, and from Congressman Walden's office, Jordan Noyes. And they wanted for me to relay to the community how much they're thinking about you, and they're going to do as much as they possibly can to help us forward. And of course, you saw when the governor was here, she, very, very compassionate lady, was hugging dirty firefighters left and right. And so she's got our interest in mind. So really, really pleased. And I want to thank you. This will be, I think this might be the last public meeting, but I'd like to publicly thank this team. Tracy over here is going to step up to the mic in just a minute. I'd like to publicly thank them. They've been very courteous to everybody. And thank you. I won't elaborate, but just thank you so much for coming to our community, helping us out, and being with us. And this, again, is Tracy Weaver, and like I told you in the first meeting, she's a little eastern Wyoming cowgirl. I'm glad to have her here.
Thank you, Boyd, and thank you for coming. I'm sorry if the notice was a little bit late. We realized this morning that all of our Gmail lists that we sent out got bounced back because Gmail decided we were spamming you. So sorry about that. If you saw your stuff come from a different email address, that was why. So we've got a few people on the agenda today. We're going to have an incident meteorologist speak with us, air resource advisor to talk about the smoke in the area, the Great Basin Incident Management Team Ops Chief, our incident commander, and then the district forester is going to talk about rehab and the line, what's going to happen after the fire is moved on. And then we'll have some time for questions at the end. So please hold your questions till the end. Write them down if you need to so you don't forget, but we'll answer your questions when we get through. So first off, I'd like to introduce Terry Lebo. Terry's going to be the new incident meteorologist here as Amanda is timing out. She came to us from another fire and hit for 14 days.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Terry Lebo. I am the incident meteorologist. As far as what we had happen today, the high pressure that was overhead yesterday and resulted in all the smoke has moved that has developed these south winds that we're starting to see. Those south winds are going to continue through the week. We have low pressure that's going to start digging down the west coast of the United States, and that's going to develop southwest flow across the northwest. This is going to bring in a little bit more moisture as the week goes on. We will see temperatures stay pretty much what they were today, so we will have highs in the valleys will be in the 90s, and on the ridge tops they'll be about 80. But the RHs will slowly creep up. The next 2 days they're probably going to be about what they were today, which is right around 10%, but then we'll see a steady increase. There may be a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms late in the week. That would be probably Thursday, Friday, again, as that moisture from off the Pacific Ocean starts to come our way. Again, it's just going to be these southwest winds. The gradient is not going to be tight, so the winds will not be very strong. We may see gusts on the ridge top to 20 miles an hour. In the valleys, that the winds will mainly be upslope during the day. So if you have any questions, you can let me know at the end. And then here is the Air Resource Advisor. Sorry, I forgot her name. Andrea, I believe.
Hi, my name is Andrea Nate. I'm here as an Air Resource Advisor. Chuck Stanley is also one as well. We're here to actually help try to forecast the smoke for you folks and then also to monitor. You guys are pretty fortunate that here in John Day there already is a monitor, but we're working to put up an additional one in Seneca and also Prairie City. Just to give you a quick synopsis, today in John Day it was unhealthy for the whole day. If you spent any time outside, you might have noticed how towards the afternoon hours the smoke kind of lifted. And we expect to see that in the future, although tomorrow the winds are going to kind of push the smoke back and forth, so all day we'll have smoke. As far as how to avoid your exposure, the best thing to do is stay indoors. Keep your windows shut. If you have an AC, turn it on and have the air recirculate. That'll help keep your exposure down. We're putting out a daily forecast that tells you the best and worst times of day. That way you can schedule the activities you need to do if you need to mow your lawn or anything like that. And all that information and more is available to you at www.oregonsmoke.blogspot.com. And I have a sample over on the table for today, and it also includes that website for you. All right?
Thank you, Amanda. And the Fire Operations Section Chief Jeff Serber will come and give you a brief overview of what the fire's been doing.
So let's start with, you can kind of see how they're oriented here, but we can start with the Jerry's Draw fire. And so for today, I'm not going to go right around specifically on every part of this fire, but I just got the latest update, and the fire is well within the perimeter. There is more smoke popping up on it today because of the lower RHs, and they have asked for one helicopter about an hour ago just to help them douse the spots that they're finding inside the line that become more apparent as the humidity drops. So they have not had anything escape their line now, I believe, for all day yesterday and all day today. So there's nothing outside the line that's been found. Everything has been internal, and they continue to mop up on that fire, call a helicopter when they need it because of, something flares up enough that they can't get a hose to it quick enough, and they feel like they might need a good dousing just to hold it down till they get in there and put it to bed. So that's we're feeling pretty confident with that fire, but we're not going to abandon it or anything because there is still quite a bit of internal heat. So there'll be resources over there for quite some time. They'll probably downsize those resources and send them back over this way, maybe starting tomorrow, but they sent nothing back from there. So they've been, I guess this is probably the third day that they've had a full complement of the equipment that's there, and they may start downsizing, like I say, tomorrow, but things are looking good over there. So if we can go back out to the Canyon Creek. And we're going to go around here starting on the north end on the containment. The black line is considered contained. Red line is still considered problem area or potential problem area, I should say. So on the north end, you can see there most of what you can see from town, immediately from town. You can see some smoke, internal smoke still, but the edge of the line has been mopped up and they're feeling like it's pretty secure. Coming around into what we call Division Foxtrot, this division here. Foxtrot comes down to Vance Creek, and then Alpha comes down from Vance Creek to Highway 395 past Fall Mountain there. So you can kind of see where they've started to pick up a lot of Alpha going on down to 395, but over here on Foxtrot, there's still a lot of concern, let's call it, just because that's about a 5 to 7 mile piece of line. That's 5 to 7 mile straight line, and you can see that's not a straight line, so there's a lot of work to be done there, so it takes a long time for folks what they're doing out there is they grid in the green, they walk people through this green side of it, and they look for any spots that might have been missed, any embers that went over the line that take a little while to pop up and show themselves, and they also work on the inside to mop up 100 feet or so within the edge of the fire. So that's kind of why that takes as long as it does. That's been quite a while since you've seen much smoke on that division, but it's still in a situation where they're not ready to call it contained. We're down in here, a lot of the time there'll be a little bit lighter fuels, and they'll be able to get a handle on the situation a little bit faster, and that's why you'll see those differences in the time it takes to turn the lines black and red. Crossing the highway here, this is Division Zulu. You can see this area right in here had a spot fire, and that's kind of why that area is still red, where you see this is black. Same kind of thing, this is the original fire. So that's been over a week, probably been 8 to 10 days since that had much heat in it, especially on this side. So they're ready to call that contained, where they aren't ready to call this other chunk over here contained. Zulu comes back across here over to the lookout isn't shown on here, but the dry soda lookout is what we call Zulu, goes into Romeo. Romeo goes over to the 15 road. So you can see portions of Romeo. Here's the 15 road right here, coming up Canyon Creek. So this is what we call our division break between Division Romeo and Division Papa, and then Division Zulu's back this way. So you can see that there's still a lot of unsecured line. It's only been a couple of days, and even though this fuel type cools down fairly rapidly, a lot of it burns in 12 hours, 12 to 24 hours. A lot of the stump holes and piles will be almost totally consumed because the fuel's so dry, and the understory is mostly grass in a lot of places, so that goes out fairly quickly. And even though it's been that long, there's still a possibility, again, because there's so many miles here and so few people to cover those miles, that it just takes an extended period of time. So let me get oriented here. Here's the 15 road, the 16 road comes up through here. They meet somewhere in the neighborhood of right in here. And you can see the 16, and this is the 15. So coming off of here, I think it's the 1530, and then it winds up here to the 1067. And I think there's an intersection right there between the 1530 and the 1067, or thereabouts anyway. Yeah, I think it's in there. And then, anyway, this was all burned yesterday, purposely burned for back burning. This was mostly burned the day before. That chunk there on the 1530 road. So this was mostly old fire, the parish cabin fire. So it was mostly grass. It's more difficult to get depth in it, but I don't expect that fire is going to have much force if the main fire ever gets all the way through that old fire. From about, disoriented now, from about this point in here to the wilderness boundary. Well, you can see this little piece of fire right there. That's a burnout that was conducted last night about dark. And you can see how this is the 1067 road right here. And they burned it off the 1067 road up to the wilderness boundary. Our main concern now is this chunk right here. You can see heavy timber right here. Road's end is over here. And you can kind of see road's end. The road comes up like this. So what we're trying to do, if we stop at the wilderness boundary over here, we're going to leave a chunk in here that the fire can come up and try to pass through and maybe come around with all the work that's been put into this. But we can't go any farther because there's no road system up in here to deal with, and we don't have enough people to get in there and do an effective job of building a line wide enough to actually burn off and be successful. So our idea is to try to come off of this area over in here where they hung it up at the wilderness boundary and swing around on another road system across a clear cut and try to tie into the 1460, is it? I can't remember the road. It's the one that goes to Road's End, anyway, if you're familiar with that area. So we're going to tie into that road and then burn off our dozer line and burn off the road and carry out to Road's End. Once we get to Road's End, that's for the people who are familiar with that ends on kind of a scat rock ridge, high elevation, and the fire won't have near as much opportunity to try to creep over the top up in here where the vegetation is thinner. So that's what we're trying to do, is get through. You can see that big dark spot, that's all heavy timber. This is lighter stuff that it won't have as much opportunity to pass through. So it's kind of what we're doing here. The wilderness has not been worked. If we come back over to the Kilo side, try to speed up here, taking quite a long time. So the wilderness area has not been worked by anybody. I've flown it a couple times and it's kind of doing its thing out there. It hit this ridge, you can see this long ridge here, and it's spotted over on the backside, and a lot of it is ground fire, creeping fire, not your raging, taking out every tree type of fire. And it could be if the wind align's right, but it's not that way right now. And even the other day when we had that heavy wind a couple days ago, it couldn't get over that ridge and really force the fire to keep running in that direction. So now we're looking almost directly south again, and coming up in here, you can see where this line turns black. We're all the way over to here right now with people, right up in here. And what we're trying to do there is we have a hot shot crew, the helicopters that you've been seeing flying out of here, the K-Max, the weird looking helicopter with two blades, is working right up in here with a hand crew trying to cool this off. And there's a big bowl of timber right up in here, and that's the stuff you can see from town when you're driving from like the gas station over here to the east, or to the west, I mean, when you're coming back into town, you look up on the hill, this is what you're seeing up in here, kind of boiling around in that timber. And we're purposely not, well, we can't take action on that because we don't have enough people. We have 20 people that hiked up in there today. Because the smoke's so thick, we can't fly them. So at 9 o'clock, the decision's made, hey, the smoke's too thick. We don't want to waste our time sitting at the airport all day waiting for the smoke to clear to haul them up there. So they get diverted back around and they get to hike a couple miles up in there to go to work instead of getting flown up and speeding up the process. So it's slow going, obviously, I guess by what I'm saying is you're going to see slow progress up in here because of the steepness of the terrain, the vegetation, and the limited availability of helicopters due to smoke, mostly. So that's kind of where we're at. And I'm available to answer questions after this. Thanks.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Beth Lund, Incident Commander for the Great Basin team. I think probably most of you have been to one of these, but for those of you that haven't, most of my team comes out of the Great Basin, which is southern Idaho, Utah, and Nevada. We're really enjoying our time in your community. I want to really thank you all for the hospitality that everyone's shown us. Jeff did a really good job of talking about the progress we've made on the fire. And we feel pretty fortunate because, you know, typically if it weren't such a, heavy fire year and so many resources being utilized, and I haven't really seen the news or read a newspaper, but I know that there's a lot of stuff going on up in Washington. And as a matter of fact, we sent a few resources up there to help those folks, because when that fire, all of those fires kind of got going there a few days ago near Twisp and Winthrop and Omak, there's a lot of fire on the ground there, a lot of communities threatened. So even though we didn't have a whole lot, of extra, we were asked to give up a few crews and a few engines to help them because they didn't have anything. So they're starting to get a handle on some of that, but those communities are really in some bad situations up there. So, but regardless, our operations section has done an outstanding job with just basically 3 working helicopters. One of them, we have 4, but we use one a lot for recon and things like that. And sometimes all of them are doing bucket work and things like that. haven't had to use the tankers, in a few days, I don't believe. So, and especially on that Jerry's fire, that was a really good catch, and that was a lot of your ODF, Oregon Department of Forestry folks. We had them all in a group, and I know that they and the Forest Service both provide initial attack here, and so we sent that complement of folks with multiple agency involvement, and they just got a really good catch on that fire, because if they hadn't caught it where they did, it would have gone right up to that roadless area on Dixie Mountain. So we feel real fortunate that we were able to get the air power there and to get those folks there in a hurry and had them there, at the ready. So it didn't take them too long to get over there. So everything's looking really good. The one thing I do have to share is that it sounds like the governor, made the National Guard, I'm at a loss for words, but anyway, enacted some actions to get the National Guard trained, and they're actually training, they keep saying a battalion, but it's basically going to be 18 crews, 18 20-person crews. So the first 6 of those are supposed to show up at our incident command post Wednesday, the last I heard, and we'll be able to put those folks to work doing some of this mop-up work and some of the what we call suppression repair, and I think somebody may be going to address that, but where we build dozer lines and hand lines and things like that, of course we don't repair those, we don't pull material in on those till the fire's absolutely out. I think Roy Walker, the FMO here, would kill us if we tried to do that, because he's going to be living with this the rest of the summer. But we do some of the dozer lines that aren't, actually a fire line and that were built either before or after. We just start to make sure that we put water bars and all that stuff so it doesn't run water, and start to fix some fences if we had to cut fences, and anything we damaged in the suppression actions, we start to repair that, and we feel like those folks are going to be helpful both in mop up on the fire and making sure we get it mopped up in, and also doing some of that repair work. But again, we haven't really met with them, and we're not sure about all the specifics, but they will be coming to join us as far as I know, and so we'll look forward to having that help to help us finish this fire up. We will definitely be here through next weekend, and I'd also like to give a shout out to the agency administrators, the agencies I'm working for, which is the Forest Service and Oregon Department of Forestry. Jim Walker and the State Fire Marshal team left this morning. Their mission was to really secure the community and the structures, and they had completed that, and there's other needs in other parts of the state, so they did depart, but it was a good thing working with them. So I'm not going to ramble on too much. We're going to be up here to answer your questions after the other presenters. So again, thanks for your hospitality.
Thank you, Beth. And, just because of Tobin and me, we have to remind you that the Great Basin has a little sliver of Wyoming, too.
Oh, yeah. I always forget that.
She always forgets us. Dave Hallmeyer, the district ranger here, is going to talk a little bit about the suppression repair and maybe the burned area emergency rehab.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. There's 2 different efforts that are going on. We have a team of about 8, 9 folks that are working with Beth's team to do the rehab for all the fire line suppression activities. So the things Beth was talking about in regards to fire lines, making sure they're not going to be eroding, fences cut, identifying those. That's ongoing with the fire suppression activity. So we have a team that's going to be doing that. There's a secondary team that we're bringing in. We've been fortunate that Adjacent Forest have offered up some additional help along with our specialists on the Mount here, and that's the Burn Area Emergency Response Team. Its acronym is BEAR. It's not B-E-A-R, it's B-A-E-R. And that team we've mobilized, and we're looking at bringing them in to actually do emergency response in relation to what effects the fire may have on other resources, life, property, watersheds, water quality, that sort of thing. That team, the leads of that team, we're hoping will be here by week's end. They'll do a preliminary evaluation of the watershed and its condition. They'll formulate team members to respond to the issues that they identify, and then we'll have them with us probably the rest of the year till the snow flies because of the size and magnitude of this fire. So two different processes going on here. The fire suppression rehab that's being handled with BEST team, and then Bear emergency response team. So I'll be around answering any other questions. By the way, the Bear team it's a cooperative team working with ODOT, NRCS. The Bear team actually deals with federal lands, and so your NRCS representative will be dealing with some of the issues of the private lands associated with the federal lands. So when we get more information and team contacts, we'll make sure we get that information out to you. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Now I have Paul Woodworth from ODOT, hopefully to give you some good information today on the status of 395.
Good evening. I wanted to just let everyone know that the highway will be open tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock to unrestricted two-way traffic. So it'll be closed tonight, but then tomorrow by 8 a.m. it will be open to unrestricted two-way traffic. That'll be during the day and the night. So we will continue with some localized, smaller work zones because we will be continuing to do recovery efforts up there over the next several weeks, possibly months. And some of the activities that you'll see coming in the next few weeks will be things like guardrail repair, some signs that are still down, damage will be repaired, continuing the debris cleanup. And then also, if you've been up there, you'll notice that there's several areas where the asphalt's been burned and damaged. We'll be doing some patching and asphalt repair up there also. So probably 15, 20-minute delays in those shorter work zones, but other than that, the highway will be open tomorrow morning. So I'll be here to answer questions if anyone has any afterwards.
Thank you, Paul. I don't believe anybody from OTEC is here today, unless I'm overlooking you. And also, I think the sheriff and the undersheriff are taking a little break this afternoon, which is they're much deserved, I would think. As far as I know, evacuation statuses have not changed today. They're the same as that are posted on NCWeb that they've been for the last couple of days. So we've got some time for a few questions. If you guys want to ask questions, just a couple of quick reminders. One question a person, please. And also if we could keep the questions looking from this point forward or from the time the team came forward rather than looking to the back. Looking to the past, that would be preferred things. Yes, sir.
Have they found out who or what has started the Prairie City fire?
The question was, have they found out what started the Prairie City fire? My understanding is it's under investigation. Tracy Rolson is nodding his head yes, but there have been no arrests or anything, correct? No, they did bring an investigator in, a team looked at that, and so probably looking for information on that as well.
Wasn't me, I was home.
Good.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How many people are occupying the fire right now, so search along the streets?
So last night, do you know the number of people?
It's right around 850 at this point in time.
Around 850.
It's 23% contained, I should have mentioned that. 23% contained last night. And with Jeff's approval, there'll be a little bit more black line on the fire today. So, you know, we look for that whole west side and, you know, the end of the week or something, probably to be pretty well called contained. You know, obviously, probably even before we leave, the wilderness is still going to be, you know, burning in there. But yeah, but about 850 folks.
That number will probably go down tonight since the state fire marshal's team has left and a few other resources are timing out. Any other questions?
Tracy?
Yes.
If I could do a quick shout out Everybody, when you saw the fire going, it was up on Canyon Mountain, and your team noticed it, how it slowed down? That man right over there is almost directly responsible, Dorman Gregory and his team, when they did all that fuel reduction there for the BLM years ago. Him and Phil Jenkins, and all those people need to be publicly thanked and acknowledged.
All right, thank you. Those fuels treatments work. I think another place people would ask a lot when they call on is a Lake Creek. Lake Creek, I don't know what it's called. Lake Creek Camp, that's hard, isn't it? That, you know, the ops folks say is very defendable. A lot of work has been done around there, and it looks great. So even though the fire's not progressing that way right now, they felt very, very good about the status of that beautiful camp. No other questions? Going once? Going twice? We'll be around to answer questions. This will probably be the last meeting we have unless something else arises. But we thank you for coming and taking time out on a Sunday afternoon. And thanks for being a gracious community.